heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER. Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
A Neighbor's Choice is live. I'm your host, David Gronowski, and it's great to be with you live for another broadcast edition on this Monday as we are soaring high across Central Florida on FM, AM, podcast, and video stream. And there's many stories to get to, so we'll dive right in together. One of the things that we're watching is how they keep trying to strong arm everybody to take their king's approved medicine. That's one of the things that I think needs to be, called out more directly, and we will continue to do so on this program. I don't care what other people want to say. A lot of people want to settle for mediocrity. They want to settle for safe mediocrity and not rock the boat. They see there's a lot of peer pressure to fold in a blind fervor for one opinion, and that is the official TV opinion about what you're supposed to do with this new virus. But we're just not going to do that. We're going to go where the facts and the science data suggest. And so that means we're just going to follow evidence no matter what the crowd's fervor says. That's the thing we on this program are committed to, and we've got to stay with it no matter what. Drew Holden, who is an attorney, and someone who is a frequent writer at New York Times, National Review, Washington Post, he has a little thread exploring how the establishment voices today that are telling you have to take these new products or else there's no other solution but that. You've got to do it or you're killing people. He says this little discussion I thought was interesting. He said this was actually back in November 9th, 2020, but he published it again just to remind people. Said Pfizer announced positive trials for their coronavirus today. He said, but it's Democrats and others have pushed a conspiracy that because Donald Trump, orange man bad, the vaccine won't work. Don't remember? Well, follow me down memory lane. He has Kamala Harris. Perhaps the most well-known anti-vaccine voice on this was Kamala Harris, who kicked up a firestorm when she suggested she wouldn't trust or take a vaccine coming out of the Trump administration. Quote, there is very little we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, so no, I would not trust his word, says Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Senator Kamala Harris when asked by CNN's Dana Bash whether she'd trust a vaccine coming out of the Trump administration. That's the very same product now that she's saying you have to take it or else you're a bad person or you're a threat. From the State of the Union show on CNN, Bash says, let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it? And she says, well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us. I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump. I will not take his word for it. Well, that's exactly what she did. She took the word that the policies under the last administration delivered a product that everybody, including babies, are going to be pushed and forced, apparently, by every means necessary in America and around the world to take. So she's a hypocrite, and they're patently liars when they say, oh, we've always been for these things, these products. No, they haven't. It's political for them. So why should you have to push your babies' skin in the game for them to make Pfizer some more $1 billion? Meanwhile, they get to play games. Oh, I would never take it. It was rushed by that guy. Okay, well, then you're not a serious source of information, then, are you? Drew Holden says Kamala Harris wasn't alone. Where bad and dangerous coronavirus ideas go, New York Governor Cuomo is never far behind. He says, Cuomo says it's bad news that Pfizer coronavirus vaccine progress came during Trump administration. He says, the Health and Human Services Secretary, Azar, said that Cuomo's comments were unconscionable. So they were towing a different narrative just a little while ago. How about on MSNBC? Let's start with NPR. Governor Andrew Cuomo says New York health officials will review any federally approved COVID-19 vaccines because he doesn't trust the Trump administration to deliver a safe and effective one. That's the same product they're now pushing you. You have to take it or else you're not allowed to be a member of society. Here's a quote from MSNBC. That's called a threat. That's called, I will put New York at the end of the list, Governor Cuomo says, discussing President Trump's remarks on New York receiving a COVID vaccine last. He says, I don't trust the president and I don't trust the FDA. They have lied about COVID from day one. So that's him pushing conspiracy theories by the standard of our current groupthink media narrative. Here's Joe Biden. Biden, seizing on worries of a rush vaccine, warns Trump can't be trusted about the same product that they're now telling you you're killing people if you don't take. See how shameful and unreliable and low quality these voices are? Absolutely zero trust should be given to these voices. They have no consistency. They have no fact-driven analysis. Pure, nihilistic, will to power garbage. So we've got to cut through the noise and confusion together. Neighbor to neighbor. I'm David Gronowski. You can call in at 727-587-1040, 727-587-1040, or write a comment on our stream below. We'll be back in just a moment.
Folks, we were sold a been there,
Weekdays noon to 2.
done that presidency.
It's Fox Across America.
Who will be ready on day one.
With Jimmy Fallon.
It was a big lie. Listen to Biden here.
120 days. Give me a break.
Understand, if Trump says that, oh, Trump admits he's not ready. Here we are at day 146, because they would also fact check the fact that he got the dates wrong.
It's Fox Across America with Jimmy Fallon. Weekdays noon to 2. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
The Dow Industrial Average had its worst day since October. It lost more than 2% of its value, shedding over 700 points. The S&P 500 down by more than 1.5%. This amid a national surge in coronavirus cases. California reported more than 14,000 new cases between Friday and Sunday. Governor Gavin Newsom says there is a simple solution.
Exhausted by this, in the fits and starts of the CDC, local versus state and regional mandates, guidelines, recommendations, and get vaccinated.
And a federal judge over the weekend upheld Indiana University's policy mandating vaccines for students. President Biden hosted the King of Jordan today at the White House, his first visit from an Arab leader. A Florida man was sentenced to 8 months in prison for his role in the Capitol riot. It's the first felony sentencing from that day. And amid a surge in gun violence in Chicago, authorities announced a $1 million fund to be used to reward people who come forward with information about gun trafficking. Brian Clark, ABC News.
Hello, this is David Gronowski here. We're live on A Neighbor's Choice as we continue on News Talk Florida across Tampa Bay, our flagship station for this broadcast, live Monday through Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. If you're listening in the radio, make sure you set it to this station. This is your go-to place for news and analysis right here on Neighbor's Choice. You can also, of course, catch us on the podcast platforms where we continue to have such a diverse audience all over the world. Join us on our podcast stream and our video stream. Also now on Rumble. Go to rumble.com, look for A Neighbor's Choice. That's our show. You can subscribe there and catch our video streams live every day or on demand on the replay whenever they conclude. So there's various ways to reach us. You can, of course, get us at our website, aneighborschoice.com, where we have a whole body of content related to a variety of different topics that we explore. This morning, I had the pleasure to fill in and guest host for the Morgan Streetman Show. He's an attorney in the Tampa Bay area, and he has a program called the Morgan Streetman Show that is a morning program. Had a lot of fun on another station here in the community, and we were talking about principles over policy and how important it is for us to remember that principles are what should drive the way we make our choices, not just whatever sounds like a neat, emotionally satisfying policy that tickles our ears. Principles are immutable. Policies blow with the wind. They're not rooted in anything. We need rooted things to survive chaotic moments, right? When the winds start blowing wild with chaos around the crowds, we stand like rocks, or we stand like a planted tree that will not bend or break when the winds come. That's what a stable society needs. That's what America needs. And that's what we seek to find in the news and events around us, both the big mainstream stories as well as the hidden gems like the ones we focus on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm thinking of folks like Dr. Michael P. Lasanti, who's using antibiotics, FDA-approved antibiotics, to treat cancer stem cells, to take on cancer metastasis in a non-toxic, very, very effective way. Or Dr. Thomas Seyfried, who's using therapeutic ketosis and some other non-toxic generic drugs, also FDA approved, to have tremendous benefit for dealing with cancer. Or how about our friend and conversation partner, Turka Goodrich, who continues to do wonderful work exploring pioneering connections between the seed oils that we consume on a regular basis and how they drive different metabolic chronic illnesses that so many Americans are plagued by. Folks, if we really understood how bad this goes, the vegetable oil deal, I think we would never, ever, ever touch them again. And I know I'm saying that right now while folks are driving in the car and they're thinking, hey, should I go to this place or that place to get some French fries? It really isn't worth it once you really look at the science that we've been looking at on this program, all of which you can find on aneighborschoice.com, where we put in our health and nutrition section. Just click on the shows tab at the top and then look for health and nutrition, and you'll see all these amazing world-class thinkers, pioneers, Galileos, doing remarkable work in the field of health and nutrition, something that I'm very passionate about because it's something that we can actually affect in our life. See, I could do like all the other programs do where they play sound clips of Biden mumbling and all that stuff. That's easy. That's low-hanging fruit. But what's more important for people just like you, is to give you real actionable takeaway wisdom, nuggets of facts that can actually impact your life right now. You know, complaining about Biden's mumbling, bumbling stuff, what is that going to do? You know, obviously all of DC, all of the media, right? Much of the Republican Party prefer having folks like him in power. So, you know, what can you really do about that as an ordinary person? You can do certain things, but what you can actually have is way more results with way less work in some case when you change things like getting vegetable oils out of your diet completely. It's an easy fix in terms of it's, you know, you can enjoy really tasty foods. In fact, the best tasting foods are ones that don't have vegetable oils in them. The best tasting foods are the ones that don't have these vegetable oils. But that means that you're going to have to be a little bit nimble. And when you look at packaged goods and processed goods, when you go to restaurants, you know, make sure they're not cooking your food in soybean oil or canola oil or sunflower oil or safflower oil, canola. These are not oils that we should be consuming. Corn oil. These are not all these different vegetable oils. Stay away from them. They're not meant to be really human food. And unfortunately, our government and ignorance has been baked into our society for decades and decades, and it's caused catastrophic results. I was talking to Dr. Kate Shanahan, who we've had on the program. She's a leading advocate of, changing our approach to nutrition to fix a lot of underlying diseases like diabetes and so forth, or to prevent them. And I said, again, if all things being equal, if the American century, let's say 2021 to 1921, if we could do that whole century over ago in a hypothetical and remove, and have everybody eat the same amount of carbs, the same amount of sugars, the same amount of meats and proteins, same types, Skittles, everything, right? But the only thing we did is we removed the vegetable oils out of the equation. How much of an impact could that have been in terms of changing our disease equation? And she said, again, it's just a hypothetical, but to paint a picture, she's saying 90% of the chronic illness problem in America could have been solved by just removing that one ingredient, even with still having, too much sugar in the diet and too much carbs and flour. Those are the things that are problematic and have their things too. But a lot of times people are very addicted to eating carbs and sugar because these vegetable oils drive us to be really sugar cravers all the time. Sugar cravers, carb craving. And so that's something that I can give you that's real actionable results. Meanwhile, when we look at this thread from Drew Holden, we see the exact opposite of what a neighbor's choice represents. We see clown media. We see clown politicians talking smack about the same product just a year ago when Trump was the one rolling it out. Now saying, oh no, this, so now they're saying you have to take this product. Before they were saying, oh, I wouldn't do it. It's he made it. I don't trust it if he made it. He rushed it out. Who knows what he did? Here's Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota, Democrat. She says she's a Converse-wearing, donut-eating U.S. senator from Minnesota. That's what she describes herself on Twitter. So she's a longtime fierce advocate for families and new grandma, but, she doesn't want to tell you to stop eating the vegetable oils that, a lot of those big companies in Minnesota subsidize, they take care of. She takes care of them, they take care of her. That's how it works. But Senator Smith said to the Minnesota Reformer back in July 1st, 2020 to the feds, will COVID-19 vaccine have an October surprise? She said, what I am worried about is that there is some sort of October surprise and that there is pressure put on the decision makers here to announce the vaccine in October of 2020. I want the American people to hear me when I say we will use the science and data from the trials and we will ensure that our high levels of standards for safety and efficacy are met. So she was suggesting that there was political pressure that was rushing the product out to the market. Then you have Congressman Katie Hill, or former Congresswoman, another Democrat, popular on the left, from California. She said, I'm a big fan of vaccines, but blank, cuss word, I'm skeptical of one that's supposed to have been developed, tested, produced, and distributed in 6 months, right in time for the re-election of our very own dictator. So again, that now, of course, she's saying, oh, people dug up that tweet and she's all on board with the narrative now because these people are not credible sources of information. They just say whatever they got to say. Don't rely on them. I've never told you to take vegetable oils. I'm consistent. It doesn't matter to me if my favorite, policy person or whatever, not that, I don't even care about politics. I can't stand anything coming out of DC. But if I had a favorite, I don't care if they were big advocates of vegetable oils, I wouldn't push it. But these politicians that people are told to listen to all day, they're not the same thing, right? They just say whatever they need to say in the moment. So don't listen to them when they tell you that you have to force your baby, your newborn baby, to take a product with legal immunity, but you have to sacrifice your kid's sovereignty to a product with legal immunity. And you don't know what the long-term health effects are because you haven't had 10 to 15 years to do it. And I heard a host earlier today on radio saying, oh, the only way to reach herd immunity is for everybody to take that product. That is an absolute scientific lie, completely idiotic, and a damn lie from hell. That is not at all what science says. There are millions of people who have gotten this disease through the natural infection process. Again, this disease came out thanks to genius idiots like Dr. Fauci funding dentist-level security lab Wuhan Institute of Virology, where people are having this thing break out like it's a wild party or something. Just reckless disease spreading. And so these fools created this problem. They created the problem of getting us all with vegetable oils, which bioaccumulate in the body. And we've proven on UC Davis's Frontiers in Physiology paper, we've talked about, we've interviewed the people behind the paper, that the people who got the severe infection of this disease had high amounts of the leukotoxins stored up in their bodies caused by consuming these vegetable oils that your stupid government funds and tells you to eat to this day. We are swimming in lie upon lie upon lie, folks. It's not, no one's here to take care. Don't listen to people who tell you to follow the herd. They don't know what they're talking about. I don't care if they're on the right. People say, oh, that's the only way to get herd immunity. That's absolute nonsense. That is complete quackery, pseudoscience trash. There are millions and millions of people who have gotten this disease already. And when you get the disease, it comes with a natural immunity that I think I will trust nature. I will trust what God designs with our immune system to be able to create antibodies for something like this than a rushed product that these same people were saying, yeah, I don't know if I would take it, like Kamala Harris was saying. And Joe Biden, oh, I don't know, Trump's rushing this for political purposes. He's rushing it. I don't know if I would take it. There's David Jolly. Remember that guy? Maybe those of you in Tampa Bay land remember David Jolly, right? What's he up to? Trying to make money for establishment folks, right? And he says, this Putin vaccine thing is all about him giving the alleged science to Trump so the president can take personal credit for a vaccine ahead of the U.S. elections. Another lemming who just says whatever he wants to say at the moment to become whatever gives him 1 inch of power. We have Cal Cunningham, right? He's someone that wants to run for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina. He says he indicates he won't take a coronavirus vaccine if one is made available. Quote, I've got questions, quote, because he's seen, quote, politics intervening in what should be driven by health and science. Yes, I would be hesitant. But now that their little team is in power and continuing the rollout, now it's just magically you have to take it. And if you think the same hesitancy they had, you're a bad person. These are not serious people. These are children. Okay? You don't listen. And it's, again, an insult to children. But you don't listen to immature fools when they've lied to you pathologically over and over and over again. That they know best, and they don't know nothing. They don't know anything. The media didn't help. Foreign Policy magazine had a headline back in this September 3rd of last year, Trump's vaccine can't be trusted. If a vaccine comes out before the election, there are very good reasons not to take it. He also says, worst, I can no longer recommend that anyone retain faith in any public health pronouncements issued by government agencies. See? Same article by Lori Garrett in Foreign Policy, another establishment magazine that's changed its tune. Joy Ann Reid of MSNBC. She was saying the same stuff. Donald Trump is keeping the U.S. out of the global search for a vaccine, and the original coronavirus test his CDC created were so flawed they had to scrap it. So there's that. Here's a link to our sad isolation of the vaccine research. Frankly, the fact that Pfizer was not part of Operation Warp Speed and took no Trump government funding makes me feel better about their vaccine. Just speaking for myself, I wouldn't go near anything that Trump or his politicized FDA had anything to do with. But of course, now that, the narrative has changed, the herd moves accordingly. These herd media voices. Jeffrey Goldberg, who is, he's at The Atlantic, another establishment one. He quote, Trump's Operation Warp Speed is an election ploy, not a guarantee of scientific progress. Drug companies that are competing to develop vaccines are banding together to resist political pressure to take shortcuts in safety testing. Well, those shortcuts were taken. That's why it's here, right? And now they want to act like they didn't say what they said. And they want to tell you that you are not as important as them. You and your body, your choice, your body, your intelligence, your ability to choose what you want to put in your body doesn't matter as much as theirs. They're allowed to openly question these products when they're concerned it will make Trump look good if these products roll out. But now that they've rolled out and it's being, pushed by their team, they all turn. Why would you listen to these voices for any health advice? Who in the world would listen to these kind of people for their health advice? How about Susan Glasser of The New Yorker and CNN Global Affairs analyst? She's over there saying, suggesting an ineffective or unsafe vaccine would be rushed out before Election Day. We have Olivia Troy saying, what I'm really concerned about is if they rush this vaccine and pressure people and get something out because they want to save the election. So it was Olivia Troy that said that. And she's a former White House Homeland Security advisor. So you got all these different people. New York Magazine, Jonathan Chait. He's always pushing all kinds of theories, right? He says, I think the biggest story of the night by far is Trump overruling the FDA scientists to rush a vaccine before the election. Don't let this get lost in the displays of public health negligence. Trump is now overruling the FDA to rush out a vaccine before the election. Let's just see how they were doing all kinds of fear-mongering. And they didn't get any censorship. They didn't get any flags by their social media cronies that they work with. They didn't get any warning, oh, you're saying something that could undermine. No. Back then, that was part of the nihilistic flavor of the month narrative. USA Today had a headline in September 28, 2020. If Trump announces a pre-election COVID vaccine, who'd believe him or go and get one? A desperate political gambit. They really didn't want him to get any political benefit from the same products that they're now telling you have to take or else you're killing everybody. They're not killing everybody when they know that there's science that shows vegetable oils are driving the diseases. They're driving the severe COVID cases. They're driving the chronic illnesses and the comorbidities. Oh, they're not part of hurting people. This is psychopathic nonsense. These people are out to lunch, out to pasture, out of orbit, out of ammo. These are not folks to be listening to for any serious conversation. They don't have the intellectual chops. They don't have the credibility. We should dismiss these people completely. We'll take a break and return live with more news. I'm David Gronowski. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040. Or you can write a comment, as I see some of you on our live stream, and we'll get to them. Again, welcome Rumble streamers. We like Rumble because Rumble respects free speech. Rumble is the way YouTube used to be before they figured out they could drop the mask and act authoritarian and represent the interests of authoritarian government interests. Back in just a moment.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR. Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved two people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com. Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
So we've been focusing on the, politician hypocrisy, mostly Democrats, and the media that were doing everything they could to politicize the vaccine by saying they were not going to be taking it if Trump got a hold of rushing it. Well, they've got the power now, so that narrative is now banned. But they're nihilists. They don't care about truth. That's why they want to have an attack on words and language, using critical theory as a bludgeon to do so. But let's go back and let's hear some TV montage clips now from some of these same voices who are now speaking the opposite tone.
So let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
If and when the vaccine comes, it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that need to be done.
When we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot? You're going to be the first one to say, put me, sign me up. And I'll say it's okay.
And the question of whether it's real when it's there, that requires enormous transparency.
We've got to make all of it available to other experts across the nation so they can look and see. So there's consensus, this is a safe vaccine.
If the president announced tomorrow we have a vaccine, would you take it? Only if it was completely transparent and other experts in the country could look at it. Only if we knew all of what went into it.
If Donald Trump can't give answers and the administration can't give answers to these three questions, the American people should not have confidence.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
So you see, folks, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that don't have 1 ounce of credibility. They say one thing, they do the next thing, they don't care. But guess what? Who's suffering? Who's suffering are kids and families who want to have reliable information, but all they have is a bunch of clowns who are using, manipulative, emotionally wrought narratives to pull people one way or the other. They don't care. They just say whatever they got to say. They don't mean anything by it, apparently, because they don't stay consistent. They don't stay consistent at all. So that's why we shouldn't listen to them when they bully us and say we've got to get our kids and babies and everybody not only doing lockdowns again, but also being terrified of this new Delta variant. We're going to get into the Delta variant, some of the information coming out about that. I don't care. I don't care what these platforms do. If they want to censor, it doesn't matter to me. There's a lot of quick ways you can have success, but what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose their soul? And if you're a news broadcaster and you see what's being pushed onto kids, if you don't fight for it, you're not a man. And there's a lot of people that get a quick route to success because they hold their tongue and they do these lukewarm arguments. Oh, I'm really mad that Biden's not controlling the border and he's not keeping our taxes low. Like they do the stupid stuff, right? Like that's obvious, right? That's low hanging stuff. There's no risk in that. But I will follow where the information is going and I will find what is looking like the biggest point of aggression that these regimes throw at us. And if they're trying to push products with legal immunity, and they're trying to push it on babies, that's where I think men have to be men, stand up, have a backbone, and do something about it, and fight back with the facts, fight back with courage and conviction. Let's look at some of the comments we have on our live stream. One says, while food shopping today could not find one salad dressing without soybean or canola oil or sugar, we must be vigilant reading labels. That's very true. Another comments, never liked seed oils, never used them. I use good old butter. Like we say here, from producers that have been doing this for generations. For salads, I use olive oil. And he's in, I guess, Luxembourg. Another says, I do cheat at times. I eat out and got no idea what they're using, but I think that's acceptable. You got to be careful because eating out is a big part of a lot of people's diet. And those seed oils, they stay in your body for years and years after you stop eating them. They bioaccumulate. So if you're having problems, chronic illnesses, they could be connected to this and other things too. I'm not saying it's the only thing that ever happened, but it's a huge gorilla in the room. It's the big elephant in the room, whatever you want to call it. Another comment says, linoleic acid at 1%, it's essential. At 4%, it begins to affect the mitochondria. At 30%, where we are now, welcome to our nightmare. Very well said. It's at a low level, linoleic acid, which is this fat in vegetable oils, is a healthy, essential fat. But we're eating it in insane, Luddite, crazy levels, thanks to our genius liars in the U.S. Federal government and their crony friends and media, and it's hurting many people. Millions and millions of people are unnecessarily suffering from diseases like heart disease and diabetes and obesity and so forth. So we'll take a break and return in just a moment. In the meantime, write comments, call in at 727-587-1040. I'm David Gronowski. Back in a moment.
Your home for news, talk, and information. 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park. Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.
It's the only way I get news.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. Coronavirus concerns amid the surging Delta variant contributed to a miserable day on Wall Street. The Dow Industrial Average fell by more than 2%, its biggest loss since October of last year. Art Hogan, the chief market strategist at National Securities, said there were other factors at play as well.
We entered last week at relatively high valuations and markets were getting a bit stretched. So you put all that together on a Monday in the middle of the summer, you've got enough of a cauldron of concerns that the market is taking a bit of a breather here, and it's showing up across all sectors.
Industries most impacted by potential new restrictions were hardest hit on Wall Street, including airlines and cruise lines. More restrictions are going into effect. Masks now mandatory in indoor places in Los Angeles County. California reported more than 14,000 new cases over the weekend, and Governor Gavin Newsom says the goal is to drive down infection numbers before schools reopen.
We are committed to getting that done, committed not to imposing new restrictions, but we are also committed to addressing this latest increase in the number of new cases here in the state of California.
And when schools open, ABC's Aaron Katersky says an influential group of doctors believes everyone should be wearing a mask.
The American Academy of Pediatrics said everyone in schools should wear a mask because a significant portion of the student population is not yet eligible for vaccines, and schools have no real way of knowing who is and who is not vaccinated. The recommendation is at odds with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, which said vaccinated students and teachers can go without masks. But the American Academy of Pediatrics said universal masking is the only step that would keep kids safe.
The White House said President Biden would accept his guidance from the CDC. He hosted the King of Jordan at the White House, his first visit from an Arab leader. More than 60 people were shot over the weekend in Chicago, and authorities now say they are going to target gun traffickers, announcing a $1 million reward pool for information. You're listening to ABC News.
If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that the easiest way for germs to get into your body is the nose. We all know how to wash our hands, but how do you clean your nose? For over 2 million Americans, the answer is Navage Nasal Care. Navage uses powered suction to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs that cause congestion, colds, and flu, so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier. Better yet, Navage is all natural and drug-free. That's why one of America's top respiratory hospitals recommends nasal irrigation to stay healthy, explaining that bacteria and viruses thrive in warm and moist environments, and that you can wash away those germs so they don't make your nose their home. Experience Navage at zero risk. Go to Navage.com, buy Navage, and use it for a month. If you're not delighted, return it for a full refund. There's nothing to lose and a lifetime of better breathing to gain. Also available at Target, Walgreens, CVS, Bed Bath, and Rite Aid. Navage, Navage.
The U.S. and its allies are accusing China of massive hacking schemes. They say they're stealing information from the world's largest companies. Criminal charges now announced in San Diego.
It's an investigation FBI agents started in 2012. Now, nearly a decade later, 4 Chinese nationals have been indicted for allegedly hacking into U.S. companies, research centers, and universities at the direction of the Chinese government. U.S. Attorney Randy Grossman.
The reach of this criminal enterprise was massive in terms of its duration, geography, and targeted industries.
The now indicted suspects are in China and unlikely to ever be handed over to the U.S. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Senate Rules Committee held a hearing today in Georgia. They're calling for passage of a federal voting rights law. Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia said at the hearing,
over the last year, Georgia has become ground zero for the sweeping voter suppression efforts we've seen gain momentum all across our country.
Republican Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia said some of the accusations from Democrats were lies. A Florida man was sentenced to 8 months in prison for his role in the January 6th Capitol riot. It is the first felony sentencing stemming from that day. And Canada says it will begin letting fully vaccinated American citizens to enter its country on August 9th. This is ABC News.
Legends of Nashville, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Nashville legend herself, Trisha Yearwood, wants to get another icon on her Food Network show, Linda Ronstadt.
It is going to happen. I'm going to get her in my house, in my kitchen. I'm going to cook for her. Like, to say she's my friend, it's really weird, but it's so wonderful.
Legends of Nashville, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
Brian Clark, ABC News.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Mental illness is up dramatically since the epidemic hit America. Consider this from the Holy Scripture.
Prepare your minds for action
and being sober-minded, set your hope full on the grace that will be brought to you. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13.
Are you sober-minded? Do you think there's no hope? There is, and it's waiting for you at your local church. There you'll find a healthy mindset that will give you strength and wisdom. The welcoming committee is there waiting for you. See you soon.
Broadcasting from the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornoski. So glad to be with you again for another hour of our news and comment together as we are soaring high across Central Florida and our flagship station, News Talk Florida, Tampa Bay, 1040. Make sure you save it at this station for all of your daily news commentary needs, where this is the place to go, where we're creating a new media revolution. And that's guided by personhood, not these fly-by-night policies and personalities. That's what politics is all about. But if we're committed to the truth, we're going to get past that. The whole idea of when you were a child, you spake as a child, but when you became an adult or a man, you put away childish things. That means turning off the boob tube. That means turning off the garbage, lying media that create all these different narratives. I saw Bill Burr, the comedian, say, imagine being these media outlets that spend their entire day coming up with how can we make people as depressed as possible so that if you're not putting a gun to your mouth within 18 minutes, we didn't do our job. Like, imagine that's your job, to come up with ways to divide people and for people to hate their life and feel terrified. Terrified of disease, terrified of going outside, terrified of letting their child play outside and feel the wind against their face without some stupid mask that Dr. Fauci told people not to wear, and then he tells them to wear. I mean, this is the same genius again that thought it was a very brilliant idea to fund a dentist security level lab. That means they had the security level in terms of safety as a dentist. If you walk into a dentist lab, that's the kind of safety standards they had in place at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where Dr. Fauci, genius of the year, decided to send all of your lots of taxpayer dollars to fund these reckless research projects that they were doing. So because that guy did that stuff, now we have this, and he thinks it's okay for kids to walk around, playing in their playground. They can't have wind against their face. They can't breathe fresh, deep, good air without that mask all on their face. We have no idea the long-term consequences of what we're doing. We live in a dark age. And it feels darker than ever, but perhaps it's because they're out of ideas and they're losing, and it feels worse and worse on their way out of relevancy. Craig Kelly, who's an MP, I believe, in Australia, he says about the Sydney folks, the Sydney siders bracing for an extended lockdown alone. He says, your endless lockdown is having a devastating impact on those living alone. You're destroying businesses, the economy, and people's mental health. Your pursuit of zero cases, where that is being abandoned overseas, has to end. I mean, these people get obsessed. These people who are not guided by science, but they're guided by coercion. They don't know what they don't know. That's putting it charitably, okay? That's putting it charitably. Meanwhile, overseas, ConnectionFrance.com says 114,000 protest against health pass and vaccination in France. Protesters in most major cities said that the new rules amounted to a health dictatorship. More than 100,000 people in France, that's a lot of people, have protested this weekend against the extension of the health pass and mandatory vaccination announced by President Emmanuel Macron this week. At least 136 separate protests were recognized by authorities on Saturday, including in Paris, all over the place here. There were at least 18,000 people in Paris. Slogans called out and written on placards across the country included freedom, no to the health dictatorship, Macron resign, our body, our choice, no to mandatory vaccination, vaccination freedom is a right, and is this a democracy in France? Protesters included the former deputy of then Front National, Florian Philippot, the singer Francis Lalande, and all these different other folks. I'm not going to pronounce their names. And in a letter seen by the press that says, within the context of the rise of the threats and acts against MPs, especially parliamentarians, it cannot be tolerated that an MP sitting next to us can spread such words and incite hate and rebellion, including violent acts. He said that requiring the health pass in daily life constituted the beginning of a spiral towards dictatorship. President Macron said that COVID-19 tests would no longer be free in the autumn. Another protester, a 39-year-old care worker, said, we have doubts about the COVID vaccines. It's not like we believe the earth is flat. It's just that we don't know the long-term effects of these cobbled together quickly vaccinations that Macron wants to impose on us. So it seems like all over the world, people are starting to wake up to the fact that we're not going to have tyrants dictate to us what medicine should be. That's not progressive that they're dictating us. That's a completely reactionary and bigoted. It's pathetic. It's barbaric. It's brutish. It's vulgar. It's embarrassing. And we're going to keep pushing back because those people represent the 20th century and we represent the 21st century. The 20th century is filled with a lot of authoritarian stuff. Authoritarian medicine, authoritarian foreign policy, authoritarian education policy, authoritarian, interventions around the world, economic planning. I mean, on and on and on. And the 21st century is going to be for those who break free from those authoritarian Luddite views of dealing with things and decentralize power such that people can reclaim their diversity of their opinion, they can reclaim their diversity of expression, and they can research what actually works the best and not have people tell you ahead of time, we have determined. That's what happened. These so-called public health officials, they determined early on with this thing that the only thing they were going to push as a solution for this disease would be this, vaccine rollout. And once that was made, and once they made the decision to do the emergency use authorization, they couldn't allow for any therapeutics to be proven to be effective in any way. Because if the FDA approved some of these therapeutics, then the use for the purpose of the emergency use authorization goes away. The only way they can grant an emergency use authorization is for there to be no known therapeutics that can have effect. And that's why they don't want you to talk about anything else, especially not things that are generics. It's got to be patented. It's got to be patented. I thought this was a comment that that had some interest to me. This is from Martyr Made, the guy that had that viral Twitter thread recently that explained the feelings of a lot of people who voted for Trump being lied to by the media so long. He says, burn this into your mind. If the censorship regime now being put in place existed in 2016, he's referring to the censorship about health concerns and health mandates. He's talking about the White House working with Facebook and Google and YouTube and all these places to crack down on anybody that dissents on their opinion. He says, if the censorship regime now being put in place existed in 2016, the Russian collusion scam would have worked. Trump would have been impeached and remembered forever as a traitor who stole the election. The regime once had this power and they want it back. And see, the reason why they don't have that power is because, again, the media environment continues to be decentralized. It continues to create new contagious flows of information. Now, some of it is incorrect, but that's what it takes to be an adult. You have to sort out the information that's incorrect. You have to use discernment. And you have to work it out. You have to look at scientific papers. That's what we do on this program. We have folks on who write the scientific papers in peer-reviewed journals, talk about these ideas that we're talking about. We just wait for some stupid Biden or some loser like that to tell us what to do. We just go and look at the data ourselves and we see if it makes sense. What's going on? And it's just crazy, you know. Mike Cernovich has a tweet that I think summarizes how people feel. He says, you got to take the vaccine to stop the deadly Delta variant, which is infecting the already vaccinated. You know, and it's in reference to this quote somebody had that said, the vaccine doesn't work because everyone on earth didn't take it. I mean, that's the stupidity of what they're telling us. That is the stupidity of what they're telling. This vaccine only works unless everybody takes it. But yet people are still getting the disease who get the vaccine. DailyMail.com says vaccinated people now make up almost 47% of all new COVID cases. Symptom tracking app claims amid signs Britain's third COVID wave may have peaked already. So we're told that, you know, because they're saying that, you know, the problem is if you don't get the vaccine, then you could get it and then you could spread it to somebody. Because the reason why they're trying to pressure kids and young people who are healthy, who haven't had decades of eating government subsidized vegetable oils accumulating in their body, they're saying the reason why they have to take it is because they may get it and then they'll spread it to somebody who's immunocompromised or a sick person or elderly person, someone who's been eating government approved vegetable oil advice for decades. And so the problem with that line of thought, of course, is that people who are getting vaccinated are still getting the disease, which means you could get the vaccine as a young person and then you could still spread it to an elderly person, right? So their whole line of argument doesn't make any sense on that. He said that the Daily Mail says vaccinated Britons now make up almost half of COVID cases in the country. King's College London scientists estimates 33,118 people were catching the virus daily in the week ending July 10 compared to 33,723 in the previous 7-day spell. But 47% of cases are among those who have received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine, surging upwards from around a quarter at the start of June. And so, you know, that's the problem. You know, of course, the article tries to cover their tails. They say this does not mean the jabs do not work. Scientists have always been honest that they are not perfect and millions will still be vulnerable to infection even after getting both doses. So I got to put that in there. But infections, it says, are rising fastest among young Britons, many of whom have only received one dose. So, you know, but they don't even talk about herd immunity. What about the natural herd immunity people get when they get the disease? If they would get vitamin D and get rid of the seed oils, get rid of the high sugar consumption, get plenty of rest, get exercise, you know, and look into some of these other therapeutics that many people around the world have been talking about. You know, it doesn't have to be a death sentence, especially if you're a young person, but they want everybody to feel, ooh, I could be the one person who's young and healthy who has something, and therefore, you know, but imagine what they could do to people's psyche if they told you how many people were dying of cancer in your city every day. 400 people died of cancer today. And then if you found out how carcinogenic the foods that they're telling you to eat is, you'd be terrified out of your mind. You see what I mean? They're telling you to eat canola oil. They're telling you to eat soybean oil. They're putting it in these fake plant goop fake burgers, right? That they're pushing so hard in the media and the government's getting excited about. Plant goop burgers. But imagine if they told you how carcinogenic they are, and then imagine if at the same time they told you that, they told you every day another 200 people died in your city of cancer or heart disease. Another 332 people died in your region today of heart disease. And you're thinking, my goodness, I'm popping a French fry. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know what I mean? And you think, and they imagine if they put that on your face. If you're going to hear from, you know, ABC News Radio in a little bit, which is a government, you know, Pravda wannabe. And imagine if, you know, they said, in other news, today we report on ABC News that 343 people died of heart attacks today in your city. You know how they do that stupid tone to make it sound authoritative? And so imagine if they did that to you every day. And then imagine if they told you what is in the foods that we've been subsidizing with your tax dollars every day. Our sponsors of our newscast benefit from vegetable oils. So let's talk about all the things they're doing to harm your health and cause you have likelihood of cancer. Imagine if they did that every day. You'd be freaked out about it. And see, millions of people rely, like Pavlov's dogs, on stimulus from television sources to be able to react to things. They don't want to be proactive in changing things. And since the media takes advantage of that, you've got millions of people who are scared out of their minds in perpetuity about anything. And that's a sad thing. We've got to wake people up. We've got to get people to reclaim their dignity so they can enjoy their life the way God intended it. I'm David Gronowski. We'll take a break and return. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040. Or write a comment as we continue live.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER. Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending simple, and they take care of home buyers like family. Using technology to make everyone's life easier, FinTech Mortgage Association equips each of their loan solutions architects with the tools they need to build a career with a schedule they control, a product they can take pride in, and an earning potential that is life-changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Folks, we're going to win this fight about health. Let me tell you, I'm excited that you see, DC's always coming up with excuses to be tyrannical and bullying and aggressive in people's lives. That's what they do for a living. That's what government is. It's a monopoly on the use of force, right? So when you create a monopoly on the use of force and it becomes the biggest empire the world's ever known, it comes up with excuses after excuses to intervene and meddle and be a little power-hungry person in everybody's life. A lot of people, they don't have anything going in their lives, but they love the idea that they can use the power of the state to hurt people. They get off on it, and that's unfortunate. But that reveals something about human nature that we need to take a long, hard look about, and that's what I do with my anthropological series, Things Hidden, which you can find on our website at neighborschoice.com as well. But that's what's going on. A lot of people just like to be, like little Fauci saying, "I am science." He doesn't know anything about science. He knows about political science. That's what he is. He is political science. That's all he's ever been. You don't get to the top of a bureaucracy like that without being a calculating political scientist. That's what he does. But here's a comment from a person named Brian Sanders, who I think is a filmmaker for a movie called Food Lies that's coming out. He says, "Somebody please explain how the fats that are supposed to be best for us were only invented 100 years ago." He's referring to vegetable oils that I talk to you about a lot. He says, "Well, the only time we were free of chronic disease worldwide was..." He says, "Somebody to please explain how the fats that are supposed to be best for us were only invented 100 years ago, while the only time we were free of chronic disease worldwide was before this time of eating natural fats. Were humans just waiting 300,000 years for seed oils to find true health?" So what he's saying is, he kind of said that in a weird way, but the point that he's saying there is that we're told that these vegetable oils, which are big behind these big pushes for plant-based goop burgers, right? We're supposed to get rid of saturated fat and eat plant-based goop burgers, canola oils in them, all kinds of toxic seed oils. And so he's saying, well, how could it be that those were the ones that were healthy for us? They've only been invented 100 years ago. We've only started eating them really, less than 100 years ago in terms of mass, kicked off with the low-fat craze in the 80s and so forth. 90s, people started eating vegetable oils way more commonly. And yet chronic diseases are skyrocketing wherever those things are adopted. But yet somehow we're supposed to believe that those are the healthy oils that were only invented 100 years ago, but we weren't having chronic illness diseases like we're having today. We weren't having those diseases back, before 100 years ago. Doesn't make any sense, does it? So the reason why I'm excited about the fact that we're going to win this health conversation, so DC finds lots of ways to meddle in your life. They meddle in your pocketbook. They meddle in what your business can do. They meddle in money. They're manipulating the money supply for their corporate crony friends. It's called crony correct. Let's talk about crony correctness. What's in the interest of crony friends? I was talking to a friend today about that, about how we talk about political correctness, but a more appropriate term is crony correctness. DC's all about crony correctness, and they misinform us. They get us eating vegetable oils to our own detriment, our toxic, chronic illness-riddled detriment, because their cronies in big food like them. They help store on the shelf better than healthy natural fats. And there's more profit margin in it. So they push what's crony correct, not what's actually scientifically correct. But we're going to win this fight as they shift their aggressive energy towards health and freedom, because that's where we can really win hearts and minds. As people let go of the food pyramid advice and reclaim their health, that's going to be a big, wide eye-opener for them to realize, wait, maybe the DC establishment has been lying and misinforming me about a whole host of things, because they almost got me killed. Back in just a moment on A Neighbor's Choice.
Leaving a trail of catastrophic damage up and down the Florida coast.
Storm season is here.
Unbelievable! This storm!
The time to prepare is now.
Hopefully you can all hear me right now. Whipping winds, relentless rain, carving a deadly path.
We'll keep you posted if a storm is headed our way.
And the worst of it may still be to come.
Plus, we'll be with you all the way through it. Your 24/7 news and talk companion. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Fears of rising COVID numbers and of a fast-spreading variant among unvaccinated people and potential new restrictions have now affected money. In 401ks, retirement accounts, mutual funds, stock portfolios, sharp downturns by the major indexes on Wall Street. The Dow lost over 2%, down over 700 points. The broad S&P 500 lost 69. Art Hogan, Chief Market Strategist at National Securities.
First and foremost, and probably the most important, is fears that this Delta variant of COVID is going to cause more restrictions and slow down the economic recovery. I think secondly, after last week's data, we're concerned about the pace of inflation and what that means to the Federal Reserve and their stimulus programs.
NASDAQ index lost 152. President Biden tempering his assessment that social media giants are killing people by hosting misinformation, saying he hopes the tech companies don't take his comments personally and instead act to save lives. Growing to a third the size of Rhode Island, that wildfire in Oregon. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
We're live back on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, David Gronowski. So glad to be with you. And let's look at some more comments that you guys have left on the live stream for us. In EU, it's mostly the elderly that use seed oils because that was advertised as great amongst the young, except for the vegetarians and vegans. Most follow the Greek style. What do you think about olive oil? I think olive oil is a lot better than vegetable oils, but a lot of olive oils that you get in restaurants and in grocery stores are adulterated with toxic seed oils. So you got to be careful with them. And there are some problems with eating a lot of olive oil in excess, but it's certainly not. It's not a seed oil. It's a fruit, right? It's a fruit, and so it's natural. It's a lot more natural and healthy and normal than these completely oxidized, rancid, unstable, disgusting sludge of the vegetable oils that are such a part of our daily diet, unfortunately, for many people. Lucas says a really good post was made by Brian Sanders at Food Lies of the ways subtle omission shapes the narrative. The headline was, quote, another healthy young 43-year-old hospitalized with COVID. This outsider doctor, Dr. Tro, checked this patient's vitals and historical labs, lipid profiles, etc., to find how terrible his numbers were. It's to show that the medical establishment and therefore media's notion of health is really not healthy at all. They have so-called normal ranges, which are really approaching pathological. And that's a great point. See, again, we're going to win this argument, folks. The establishment, the tyrants of the 20th century, they're going to lose this because they're playing right into our hands. They're playing right into humanity's hands, which is we are learning what makes for healthy bodies now more than ever. We're understanding the essential role of things like vitamin D. We're understanding the essential role of getting rid of processed flours and processed grains, processed sugars, and getting rid of these seed oils absolutely out of our life. And don't ever let your kids have them. I get tired of, and it's so hard to see how people are so succumbed to the herd because, you'll meet people and they know, and you talk to them about these vegetable oils and they learn all about it and they get all the stuff right, like you and I are talking about. And then you still see them giving their kids seed oil slathered chicken nuggets, seed oil slathered pizzas. And you think, why do you have to even though those are the people that frustrate me the most. People who are ignorant completely, they have a kind of, they shouldn't be ignorant. There's no excuse really, but they're still ignorant. And I understand how that works. they need, they have some grace. You got to give them some chance to figure it out. But folks who know and then they still put seed oil sludge in their kids' bodies every day because it's convenient. There's other foods that are so-called fast that don't have seed oil sludge in them. And it's not about this is just eating the way your body was designed to eat. You don't want to eat something that bioaccumulates in your body tissue, that causes instability, inflammation, chronic oxidized stress. You don't want that in your body. You don't want your kids eating that. I hate the way people have this mentality that kids are to be fed like pigs, like dogs. That's the way people do. And even the ones who think the few parents who do the healthy thing for kids, they get sold a bill of goods about what's so-called healthy. They start eating kale shakes. You don't want kale crap. It's a waste of time. All the oxalates in these dark leafy green vegetables, it's useless. They and then they get into again, they get there, oh, I'm eating healthy. I'm getting my kid lots and lots of, lean meats without, why don't you eat the saturated fat? Because your government, the American Heart Association, all these people have been misleading people for generations to not touch these healthy fats that our ancestors ate and led much healthier lives overall. But that's the situation that we find ourselves in. The Madeline Meckelberg says, breaking, 3 of the quorum busting Texas Democrats in D.C. have tested positive for COVID-19. Party leadership confirmed to the Statesman all 3 members are vaccinated and their names are not being released at this time. Mike Solana says, I hate to be that guy, but can we just pause for a moment and imagine the media's reaction had a bunch of Republican lawmakers fled the state to kill a majority vote on something Rachel Maddow favored, then contracted COVID and exposed the vice president? I mean, it's true. I mean, it's not just the media manipulation and the overt thing. It's the double standards that create a lot of craziness in our culture today. People are losing their minds because they have insane media voices to look up to. If you've got insane clowns to look up to, then you've got, a hard time to have. It's going to be hard for you to have, a sane, sound judgment about the world. And that's what a lot of folks are dealing with right now. They don't have reliable role models, and so we have to be the role models for people to stand in the gap of the chaos and try to help guide our friends and family and neighbors into the right path. I'm seeing justthenews.com. They have a story talking about how 64% of Americans are not confident Kamala Harris is ready to be president. I mean, you think, and you got to wonder how many percentage of Americans think Biden is ready to be president. I mean, the guy is just totally out of it all the time. Such an empty suit if I've ever seen one. And we don't have leadership in this country. We have this faceless bureaucracy. And it has a face ostensibly with people like Fauci, but it's just all these people that you never see that are just moving like a herd into this one-size-fits-all direction for what's considered health and all this stuff. One-size-fits-all direction for, what you're allowed to think culturally. And it's just not going to work. Meanwhile, they keep showing all these people in, grocery stores and, different stores having mental breakdowns because they're being filmed and exposed and stuff. People are really losing their mind, the people who've been conditioned by this lockdown moment. It's awful. It's creating a lot of ugliness in our society, and we shouldn't tolerate it. We should fight to have a beautiful, healthy, joyful society. We don't have to stay stuck on the old framework that keeps us doing the same hateful things over and over again, expecting different results. Speaking of narratives that you're not allowed to talk about, but are now breaking through into reality, justthenews.com reports that Speaker of Georgia House demands investigation into Fulton County election irregularities. This is David Ralston wants the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to determine if, quote, any irregularities or willful fraud occurred in Georgia's largest metropolis. So the Speaker of the House, David Ralston, he sent a letter last week to Fulton County election officials requesting that Georgia Bureau of Investigation be allowed to conduct the investigation. This comes as after Just the News reported last month that an independent observer for Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger noted 24 pages of irregularities in the Atlanta vote counting center last November 3, including double scanning of ballots, insecure transportation of ballots, and possible voter privacy violations. Raffensperger told Just the News he believes the problems in Fulton County are so extensive that the state should take over running elections in the Atlanta area. Separately, a watchdog group called Voter Georgia, which won court access to absentee ballot data, said last week its review found that Fulton County's hand count audit of the November election was riddled with, quote, massive errors and provable fraud. Ralston said that recent reports of problems require a thorough examination and explanation. Given the seriousness of this situation and the possible repercussions for our state and nation, it is time we have an independent investigation once and for all of the way in which Fulton County conducted, counted, and audited the November 20 presidential election, he wrote. So this is a guy who was really pushing back on the notion that there was anything to look at in this election, and now there's enough evidence. Trust me, if the person dug in that hard on there's nothing to see here, and now they're going the opposite, that means there's a there. Okay? There's a there. And I don't know, again, I have not studied this election issue. This hasn't been a particular focus of mine. I've been working on things like vegetable oil, something that you can get out of your life right now and have tremendous effect and save people's lives in your community and your family, talking about this. But this is an issue that I totally support people having the right to question and make sure that if you're going to have an election, it better be a slam dunk, secure election. And of course, that's another topic where, remember, if you were listening in the previous hour of this broadcast, we played clips of the Democrats all pushing for skepticism about a rushed product like the vaccine that Trump developed with Operation Warp Speed. And we have all the receipts on Democrat politicians talking about how the election machines in the past, this was after Trump got elected, that the election machines were prone to hacking and remote access and all kinds of dubious tampering that was a problem for them. See, back then, the official villain of the TV was elected. Therefore, the official story was, hey, dumb voter, you should be scared about your election machines. They're not going to work. Ooh, we're going to scare you about it. Now that the narrative is the official good guy team has won, the TV is now telling you there's never been ever a safer election than the one we had where 3 states all stopped their count at the same time and all these, mail-in ballots were flooding the system and all these irregularities that they're finding. Oh, there's nothing to see there. It's just civil rights. Civil rights are being attacked. I mean, these people are so stupid and shallow. They're so transparently idiotic. They got nothing intellectually. So all they have is coercion and lies and manipulation, and that's why their TV party outlets are dropping like flies in terms of the ratings. Nobody watches these 20th century media outlets. It's time to build a new conversation. It's time to leave these ideas in the ash heap of history. It's time to just say, you know what? The adults are taking, we're going to take back the conversation, and we're not going to allow these immoral, ignorant people in the TV media to tell us to dictate to us the terms of the conversation. That's over. You lied about the wars. You lied about the housing market. You lied about the bailouts. You lied about the Russia. You lied about the impeachments. They lie. At some point, people are going to start waking up. And I think, again, going back to the health issue, trying to tie it back, all these things are connected. It's a record of myths versus science and facts, right? That's what we're dealing with. But I think when they've overplayed their hand with their authoritarian focus being the health question, I think it's going to be to their own demise, because that is an issue where there's a great renaissance of and breakthrough information starting to spread. And it's one thing when you talk about like economic ignorance, right? A lot of people in America on left and right don't understand a thing about how free markets actually work. They actually think that our government managed Federal Reserve system, all this stuff is all just free market capitalism. Left and right are still ignorantly believing this. But they can persist in that ignorance because The economy is such a kind of abstract thing for most people that they don't really see the connection between crony corporatism and state intervention and regulations and government capture of universities and how that skews people's information. They don't really see how that all connects together. But I tell you where they really see the rubber meets the road. When they start finding out, wait a second, I listened to David Gronowski's A Neighbor's Choice radio show, started listening to the scientist that he had on there, started removing all the vegetable oils out of my life, seeing a big, big impact, seeing big, big problems that I had that I didn't know how to deal with, start to resolve. And I'm not saying it's a magic bullet. I'm saying it's a big, easy thing to get rid of completely. And then get rid of the sugars, reduce the sugars. But you start with the biggest problem, and then you work your way through if you have a hard time making changes in your life. And once they start seeing, wait a second, wait, who was the one pushing these vegetable oils? Oh, government, the same TV experts, the same media, same social media cartel, same government bureaucrats. They're the ones that have been subsidizing, taking these dollars I have and giving it to fat cat, big food companies to make these seed oils. They're the ones that keep funding all the science that tells me to eat all this garbage instead of eating ancestrally, eating butter and red meat and things like that. They're the ones that did that. And then they see, wait a second, I can solve a big disease, heart disease, cancer, diabetes through dietary corrections and lifestyle corrections. They don't know that yet. A lot of people still believe the only thing you do is if you're sick, you just keep eating all the junk food that the government tells you that their big crony boys want them to tell you to eat. You keep eating that garbage, and then you just take side effect mitigating disease drugs, and then they create, you take symptom mitigating drugs, and then they have side effects, and then you take drugs for that, and then they have more side effects, and that's just the way it is. That's just part of growing old. That's not how it was supposed to be. That wasn't how it was for generations in the past, but it is now. But when people see health effects, that's going to be, I believe, a big eye-opening moment for folks who have been buying the Kool-Aid of the TV party for a long time. I think people are going to stop and they're going to say, wait a minute here. It's one thing to talk about democratic socialism. It's one thing to talk about, I hate free markets. Like, that's an abstract thing that government sells people on going along with. But when they realize that the government has been misleading them about their nutrition to catastrophically fatal results for people they know in their lives that didn't have to suffer with diabetes, didn't have to suffer with these diseases. I hope and I pray and I believe, so there's a mixture of all this, that would be a big, big eye-opening moment for a lot of people who are the hardcore followers of the TV party misinformation. That's my thing. So the more they play, hey, everything about government is going to be about directing your health, right? They use the COVID thing as we're going to be your little health nanny state control freaks now. It's like, okay, now you're exactly where we want you. Because now when we have a conversation about health, you're going to lose that argument, government. DC, you're going to lose that argument, DC. You're going to lose that argument, crony capitalism. Because the facts and people's health benefits, when they reject the misinformation that government and TV and media are telling them about their health, and when they make changes in their diet that the TV didn't tell them to do, in fact, told them to do the opposite, that's going to be the thing where they say, wait a second, it was one thing when you were just telling me this guy, Trump, that I don't like is a Russian agent. How much skin in the game does that require of me? But when they realize that the TV and government gave them their heart disease and their clogged arteries, that's when I think, and when they realize that people have horrible cancers and things at a rate they shouldn't be having because of this misinformation, I think that's when people are going to start saying, oh my goodness, I have had enough of this cultic devotion to the state worship. We'll take a break and return. I'm David Gronowski. You can call in at 727-587-1040. That's 727-587-1040. Or write a comment in our YouTube stream or our Rumble stream, Facebook stream, and we'll continue in a moment.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR. Who is your neighbor? Dave and Wally are team drivers for Oakley Transport. One day, they came across a very serious accident on the highway. Some might pass on by, but Dave and Wally saw there was no time to waste. They jumped into action and saved 2 people's lives with moments to spare. That's the kind of courageous love we need more of today. It reflects the respected culture Oakley Transport develops with their driving professionals. CDLA licensed drivers. Join Oakley Transport today for a rewarding career. Visit oakleytransport.com. That's oakleytransport.com.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice Radio. We are live on FM, AM, and podcast video stream, coming to you from our flagship station, News Talk Florida. You can call in if you're local in Tampa Bay, 727-587-1040. But commenting on any of the topics that we've explored today, 727-587-1040. And also looking at comments on our live stream worldwide. Lucas says, crooked teeth begun to take off at the advent of industrial revolution with processed foods, canned foods, etc., which is why this problem is not directly related to the seed oils, although it makes the whole body function worse, immune system, etc., so it will worsen susceptibility to allergies, etc. Another says, thank God for regenerative farming, the rediscovery of dietary health. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff in that space. We've had a recent interview with Joel Salatin, who is like one of the most iconic farmers in the regenerative local farming movement. Very inspiring figure. And you can find that on aneighborschoice.com. And also, I'm working on a new roundtable that's going to be exciting. It's going to include, James Dale Davidson, the great forecaster who wrote The Sovereign Individual, which is a big respected book in a lot of circles, investing circles, venture capital circles, Silicon Valley. And we're going to try to include Joel Salatin in that too. And that's going to be a roundtable discussion on I call it the 21st century lifestyle. How to build a 21st century lifestyle, right? Because that's what's happening right now. We're transitioning from the old model of just sit around eating McDonald's, sit around numbing out the pain of, demons that you wrestle with mindless television. Sit around and watch people tell you what to do in a lab coat, even though they could be bent by crony corporations. Just sit around in a passive, cattle-like state. That's the kind of some of what happened in the 20th century, in the late 20th century especially, as we became a decadent and bloated empire in D.C. But we have to build a 21st century mindset. And a 21st century mindset means having a 21st century approach to education. It means having a robust education that equips the person to have critical thinking skills at a young age and allows them to develop their talents and individual personal skill sets, not have a generic cookie cutter garbage education like government schools. A 21st century mindset means staying out of debt. Because if you're in debt, then you end up having a job that robs you of your fulfillment in life, your joy in life, your vitality in life. And I'm not saying you can do jobs like that. And we all do jobs sometimes that we don't want to do, but we do them because that's what's necessary. But the point is we should have a society where you can achieve a career doing things that you're talented at doing, building stuff, making stuff, so forth. But in order to do that, it's good to be debt-free. So I tell people, get out of debt. Other people say you got to pay off all your credit cards. I don't believe so. I think it's a predatory system. That's not government. It's government rigged. It's not free market. So it's not honest money. And I believe if you have a certain level of personal debt that's burdening you, you should be able to declare bankruptcy and get out of it. And then don't touch it again. See, some people say don't tell people to declare bankruptcy because then you're teaching them to be frivolous. Well, but that's because they think that they're going to go back to using credit. I don't think we should use credit. I think we should stay out of it completely in terms of personal, purchases. And then another 21st century lifestyle principle is, taking back your health, right? Taking back your health, exercising, resting properly, 8 hours a night if you can, getting proper, social enjoyment. It's important for your mental and physical health to have good social friends all around you who are not telling you negative things and keeping you divided and hated, in your mindset. So those are some of the core principles of a 21st century lifestyle. A 21st century lifestyle includes regenerative farming, local farming. It includes understanding how to get seed oils out of your diet, getting seed oils out of your life, getting the processed sugar. And as Lucas says, making sure you don't have crooked teeth. But that's a problem for a lot of people, that they could be at an age where they can't get that crooked teeth problem fixed. But they can do certain things to improve their jaw posture, their tongue posture, and so forth, which can help with breathing and so on. But these are all different things that we can explore together. And a 21st century lifestyle is also about challenging what's possible in physics, what's possible in chemistry, what's possible in terms of nuclear energy, right? Those are things that I like to talk about because those things are the big picture things that give people excitement and joy and wonder about the world, what's left to be discovered right under our noses. That's some of the things that are represented in a 21st century lifestyle. And I'm looking forward to doing that roundtable with Joel Salatin and James Dell Davidson and some other special guests. So you're going to be excited to see that and many other. I've got great interview guests lined up this week. You don't want to miss any of it. So don't. Go to aneighborschoice.com, put your email in, and we'll keep you in touch with all of our content as it comes out. I'm David Gronowski. Email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.